Welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Theodore Henry, and we have a lot in store for you. Want more clarity on the tuition-free policy in schools? Then be sure to watch Issues, as loads of answers will be provided.
We were able to put into the school's account a total of $1.4 billion, the very first time in the history of Jamaica that high schools are getting funds so early, in June.
School breaks in a few weeks, and summer will be a critical period for those leaving high school. We provide an option for career choices. Stay with us, you'll be glad you did. This is the show with the information you need to improve your life. The further expansion of the Heart Trust NTA, achievements of his first 100 days in office, funding the tuition-free policy. These and more are addressed by the Minister of Education, Ruel Reid, our guest on this week's Issues and Answers.
Welcome to Issues and Answers. I'm Ian Boyne. Today we speak to the Minister of Education, Youth and Information, the Honorable Ruel Reid. There are several areas that we want to speak to the Minister about, more particularly his relationship with the Heart Trust, the importance of the work of the Heart Trust, and how the work of the Heart Trust falls within the mandate of the ministry. We thank you so much for your company. Minister.
Thank you, Ian.
Good to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me again.
Before we talk about the Heart Trust specifically, I want to talk about the strategic direction first of your ministry overall. What is the vision of this ministry?
Well, first of all, I've been trying to explain to persons that it has become an expanded ministry, now the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. And we want to make it very clear to the nation that we take our mandate very seriously, and we're focused on the 0 to 29 age group. That is our key stakeholder group. Of course, we are equally responsible for parents and parenting. A couple of the focus areas for the administration would be safety and security, building out uniform groups. We are focused also on quality of educational delivery in schools. So what we call differentiated instruction is very important to us. That is, be able to deliver teaching that every child can learn at their own pace and at their own level and style. We are now in an age of information and technology, and so therefore the use of technology in terms of delivery of education, the administration of education is also very important to us. And overall, what we want at the end of the day is for us to see the youth grow and develop. We ensure that there is career development at all levels. In fact, not only for the youth, but for the entire nation. We would love to have every worker involved in continuous training, professional development. And equally, the ministry is focused on the information component. So we want not only my ministry, but all the ministries of government to have very effective communication systems. We are communicating very well, accurately, and regularly to the population.
Minister, the 100 days marker is an important milestone.
Yes.
What have been among the more significant achievements of your ministry during your first 100 days in office?
Well, that's interesting. There are so many things that I think we have achieved in the 100 days. We were able to host a very significant conference, the staging of the Security and Ethics Conference that we sought to expose our deans of discipline and our principals about safety and security and ethics, and working with the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the other law enforcement entities. And I thought it was a very successful conference and the first of its kind. I was very privileged to travel during the period as well. And I received the keys to the city of Myanmar. I thought that was very significant. And in those discussions, we have built up quite a bit of relationship with the diaspora. The diaspora has committed for the next year to raise about $2 million just in the first year. And they're also planning bigger fundraising going forward. So I have engaged in several, over 167 meetings of key stakeholders during that particular period. So
167?
Yeah, 167 in the 100 days, very significant. But you know, there has been much talk about our tuition-free policy. We made certain commitments and we delivered on those commitments. And one of the significant commitments, of course, was how we are going to disperse funds to schools and in a very timely manner. And we're very pleased that without much fanfare, we were able to put into the school's account a total of $1.4 billion, the very first time in the history of Jamaica that high schools are getting funds so early in June, and they're accustomed to getting more in August and so on.
So the level of the funding
Yes.
was also the highest. Would it have been?
Well, yes, in terms of what we have budgeted, it would be the highest, because this is only the first part of a total of $3.9 billion. So the $3.9 billion budget would be the largest ever for secondary schools. Yes.
But in terms of the timeliness of delivery,
Yeah, that's That's a record, because this would be the time of the year that schools least have funding and the time they need the funding most. And this will give them more lead time in terms of preparation of the new school year. So we're expecting come September, school will be well ready and oiled and ready to deliver quality education in Jamaica.
Yes. Yeah. And you continue to defend the no tuition fee policy. You think it's an eminently reasonable policy, Minister?
Well, let us be very clear that what we have tried to do is to make it very clear to parents what the policy is, rather than saying one thing and mean another thing. What the previous administration on one hand was saying, it is on one hand mandatory and then it's optional. What we're saying is that the government is committed to funding education to the best of its ability and then allow for parents to make additional contributions. That is what the policy simply is. And in that policy, there's really no need to pay for tuition. So any request is really a contribution, because the government is insistent that we will pay for tuition. We will pay the teachers. We will pay largely for the operation of school. What you're contributing to is the further development of these institutions.
Yes. We're speaking to the Minister of Education, Youth and Information, the Honorable Ruel Reid. We take our first break on Issues and Answers.
Some marine, you know. Yeah?
Yeah, man, I have the package 60,000.
60,000.
Yeah.
How much I want?
Yeah, man, 2 bills I want, man.
Yeah, man, no one else.
5 grand,
Yeah, man. Same. Alright,
what one, cat?
you don't know, I sit downtown the other day there.
Oh.
All the brethren, them man, we buy and sell marina. One of them I sell a 6-pack for $1,000 and the next one I sell one for $200.
So where why?
Buy 5 of them for $1,000. Think them can't rob me.
So Uncle Fancy is the same $1,000 you would spend to get the 6? Seriously?
Tell them again now, my math brains.
Math count.
Math count.
Sponsored by the Ministry of Education.
Minister of Education, Youth and Information, the Honorable Ruel Reid, is our guest. Minister, continuing on the matter of your achievements during the first 100 days, what are the other things that you...
Well, of significance, of course, is our focus on youth engagement and ensure that we provide multiple opportunities for our students to to pursue educational and training opportunities. And we have rebranded and expanded the Career Advancement Program. And that program is focused on ensuring that students remain in the education and training system beyond grade 11 rather than exiting or even exiting before and then become part of the unattached group. The rebranded program will allow for enrollment to move from 5,000 to 10,000 students being enrolled in this program. We're spending about $850 million on this particular initiative.
Yes. Also, Minister, I know that there was the early stimulation program.
Yes. We have also announced the rebirth of the early stimulation program, which is going to be very revolutionary in terms of our education system, because in our discussion with the Minister of Health and the Minister of Labor and the Social Security, the children 0 to 3, the early stimulation is absolutely imperative because 85% of brain development occurs in these early years. But in the demographics we have in our country, where we have significant instance of poverty and poor parenting, the state now has to be far more proactive to account for every newborn. In fact, even before then, once you become pregnant, and we have to be educating you about caring for pregnancy and ensuring that you develop a healthy fetus and postnatal and so on, but also to bring in the social support, because some of these very same poor parents who end up on path, they require the intervention from day one. Because when we look at the GSAT results and the other results at CXC, it is showing a trend that we have a number of children who have special needs, a number of children, if they had a better start, they would do very well in the educational system. But you can't get that output at the end if you don't have a strong foundation. And therefore, our government is now focused on the very earliest stage of the education ladder, that is 0 to 3. And we're going to be collaborating with the other ministries in this regard.
So there's no de-emphasis on the early childhood education?
Well, I was surprised that I was hearing about the emphasis. In fact, it is...
The charge was made.
It was an expansion. In fact, it is a focus from its very core at the foundational level, which, by the way, was missing in the previous administration. They thought that early child would start at age 4. Early child begins at 0.
So rather than a de-emphasis, in fact, there's an acceleration.
It's a profound acceleration. Yes. And so that we, as I said, we are responsible for 0 to 29. And I have made this statement so consistently. So I can't understand how anybody could think that we are de-emphasizing. In fact, if you look at our program of expenditure on every sector, we are increasing our expenditure on every sector, on early childhood, in primary, secondary, and tertiary.
Minister, with regard to training, how does the Heart Trust fit within the government's overall thrust for economic growth and job creation?
Well, Heart Trust is a very important agency as part of our ministry, and they are working with us strategically to ensure that we identify the gaps in terms of our training needs and providing for the training that is required, because their mandate is training of the workforce. And one of the things I've said to the private sector is to signal what are the areas of need, particularly as we look at the emerging job opportunities in animation, in BPO, in the hospitality areas, maritime and logistics, and all these areas. We are now getting Heart Trust to be available to train the workforce. And I've been speaking to investors, and I had an opportunity to speak to, for example, Harvard Business Review. And Hart, by the way, was also interviewed for that magazine. And it's important that we signal to the international investment community that Jamaica has the kind of human resource capital that they can utilize, and therefore they are welcome to come to Jamaica and invest. And so the Heart Trust NTA is absolutely critical in this particular initiative.
And I've spoken to its executive director, Dr. Wayne Wesley, and he also seems to have a strong emphasis on employment generation.
Absolutely.
Not just the training, but the actually employment generation.
Absolutely.
Speak to that, Minister.
Yes, part of the strategy also of HEART is to, of course, have entrepreneurship programs. So we also train in person in entrepreneurship. But beyond that, investing in SMEs, the small, medium-sized enterprises, where we have a fund we have established that will allow for young persons who have good ideas and need some seed capital to approach HEART, and we'll give them some seed capital along with, of course, training them in terms of good business management skills and so on. We also, through HEART, look at placing trained workers into jobs. So we are also together focused on how we can expand economic activities, and by that expansion, how we can get persons employed.
Is there any collaboration, Minister, with the private sector to see what the workforce needs are and how those needs can be coordinated with the work being done by HEART and the training being provided?
Absolutely. There is a particular division of HEART that does workforce
development.
Yeah, not only development, but collect data, labor market survey. Okay. And we work with the Ministry of Labor and, of course, the private sector, and for us to determine with them where the gaps are. And I mean, I was fortunately a previous member of the board of HEART, so I'm quite familiar with the work of HEART, and I know this is the data that they have mined for me, the data I have used. I was able to look at some of the areas of need within the workforce needs of the country.
Minister, thanks very much for your
It has been a pleasure.
For your time. Minister of Education, Youth and Information, the Honorable Ruel Reid, spending time with us on Issues and Answers. Next week, I'll be back. Until then, Ian Boyne wishing you a pleasant day.
No, son. A verb is an action word.
Parents need to become more involved in their children's education.
Parents are the first and in many cases the most important teachers.
Read with your children. Review their schoolwork. Visit their school.
Tapping and rapping and slapping, I said.
Nice! High five! Woo!
A good education will never decay.
With an increase in job opportunities in the logistics field, that industry may be a good career choice for future workers. Next, what to do in shipping.
To ensure safety at sea, the best that science can devise and that naval organization can provide must be regarded only as an aid and never as a substitute for good seamanship, self-reliance and sense of ultimate responsibility, which are the first requisites in a seaman and naval officer. Hello, I'm Kerry. Today we're plotting a course that takes us inside the whys and hows of some maritime jobs. That and more in this installment of Career Talk. Thanks for joining us.
It's a very vibrant market right now.
Career Talk has emphasized this reality before, but it bears repeating. The maritime industry offers up a wealth of opportunities for employment options.
I chose it because I really like it. I tried other schools before, and to be very honest, they weren't as exciting. The thrill wasn't there. So I ended up doing this.
Today we zone in on some of the more common onboard ship jobs that are available and what you need to know to get started. If you're just starting out in the maritime industry, this is the bottom rung on the ladder.
That's one of the lowest ranks on board merchant marine vessels, and they deal with mainly deck work from the deck department and They have no sea time and are in charge of roles such as watchkeeping, keeping a gangway watch, chipping and painting the deck, and basic ship maintenance.
But there is ample opportunity to work your way up.
You can move all the way to captain if you are good enough. And as an OS, you earn anywhere between $800 US per month up to $1,500 US per month, depending on the vessel you're on and what company you're working with.
And FYI, there is no specific training or certification needed for this.
No, just basic training to go on board, like life-saving techniques as they're practicing behind me right now, and similar courses, basic first aid.
The able-bodied seaman, AB, is just a step above ordinary and isn't exactly an indication of your physical condition, although just about every job on board a ship calls for being in good shape.
He does the same thing an OS would do, except he is certified and he would have had more experience and sea time. He gets more pay, of course, so he gets anywhere between $1,500 US to $1,000 to $2,000 US per month.
The junior engineer is at the lowest level of the engineering department but performs critical tasks nonetheless.
When you finish your training at the Maritime Institute or any other institute worldwide, and then you start your navigation, you have no sea time, but you like to become an officer. You have to first work as an apprentice engineer. In this position, you typically earn, well, $1,500 to $3,000, depending on the vessel and the company you're working with.
And then there's the licensed engineer.
His job is ensuring the operation of the entire engine room of the vessel. He is the equivalent of the captain for the engine department. So he runs the engine department of the vessel. So the chief officer is the right hand of the captain. So the captain has overall responsibility of the vessel. The chief officer is in charge of the deck department. The chief officer is in charge of the bosun, all the navigational officers, and everyone else that works on the deck. He gives them the daily roster of duties, yes. He's in charge of the navigation of the ship and its safety.
Now, think about a crew of men and women of whatever size working on a ship for months. What would happen if they are not fed often and well? Ship owners know that is not a scenario you want played out, which is why they hire stewards.
That is the chief cook on board the vessel. He's in charge of preparing all the meals. He would have a team at times, depending on the size of the vessel. He would normally have a mess man or maybe 2 mess men, depending on the size of that vessel. His earning potential is anywhere between $2,000 to $4,000.
Remember, whichever maritime job you do seek out, there are some constants.
It comes with a high level of discipline. It comes with commitment.
Safety are what we are dealing with. Yo, respect authority and keep your dreams alive. School us to study, not fi fight. Hey, we need each other. Safe school are what we are dealing with. Yeah, safety is a human right. Don't destroy your own destiny.
Building safer schools in safer communities.
Play it safe, grab a book, link a friend, talk about life.
A message brought to you by the Safe Schools Task Force.
Safe school are what we are dealing with.
This message was paid for by the European Union.
Parents, take your place. Talk to your child about sex.
In spite of all our differences, along with all our problems, I believe. And despite the crime and violence and spread a gleam of hope across our country. I believe that we can join our hands and make a difference in Jamaica. I believe that we can make a change and spread a gleam of hope across our country. I believe that we can join our hands and make a difference in Jamaica. I believe, I
I leave you with this. You don't choose your family. They are God's gift to you, as you are to them. A reminder for us to appreciate God's gift and live in forgiveness and love with our relatives. Send your feedback or comments to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm. You may also find out more about the Heart Trust NTA on our website, jis.gov.jm. We're also on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, so log on and stay in the know. Until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Have a wonderful day.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.